Warm welcome from my side to our session, Future Smart Corporate Mobility. I got three panel guests who I would now like to come on stage. First, we have Ben Lawson. Ben, please come on stage. Ben Lawson of Enterprise. Please. We have Dr. Olga Nevska from Telecom. And Anna-Theresa Korbut from HVV Hamburg. Welcome, Anna-Theresa. So I still miss my clicker. Then we will start. One moment. Yeah, I get it. Thanks. So I've prepared a few slides. The idea is I give some brain food for discussion. We have three short statements, and then hopefully we have a lively discussion with you all together. So our topic is future of smart corporate mobility. The big thing is that commuting is a key lever for reducing emissions in the transport sector. That's a big topic, a big goal, EU Paris climate. 35% are caused by work-related travel. In Germany, 68%, nearly 70% commute with the car. We're going to have the international view with Ben. It's different, and it's quite stable. So on the regulation side, there are talks that the EU Commission will ban ICE vehicles, just focus on corporate fleets and car rental. It's a very big thing and a very big lever, because if you look at my last slide, those are the figures between private car park in countries and public. You see Germany in the middle, you see Portugal, nearly 90%. So the biggest leverage we have to get this mobility transition really going on is the corporate sector. On the other side, it may be easier with regulations to help, because nobody wants to touch the private customer. Yeah? And here in Germany, like yesterday, we had our chancellor, we had our Bavarian state minister. They still argue about, we call it Technologie Offenheit, will it be EV 100%? Brussels is discussing very different. So there's a lot of fog, what's coming, and we want to lift this fog together with you and the panel. So first of all, we make a first introduction. So I would start with you, just introduction, what you do and what's your connection with corporate mobility.
So my name is Anna-Theresa Korbut. I'm managing director of the Hamburger Verkehrsverbund. It's a traffic association in the northern part of Germany, and I'm responsible for over 3.4 million passengers traveling by public transport, so not by cars. So that's, you will maybe ask why I'm here, but I'm here because we are doing very interesting stuff with corporates and integrated their cars in their companies.
And I don't like to say this, but in Germany, there's a little bit battle between Munich, Berlin, and Hamburg, who is moving forward future mobility, and Hamburg is in a good position. We had the biggest transport conference, the UITP, and a lot of plans with a very progressive mayor. So here in Munich, we are looking a little bit envious in this direction. Next, I say hello to Dr. Olga Nevska from Telecom. Please.
Thank you, Hans-Peter. I'm Olga Nevska, Managing Director of Telecom Mobility Solutions. It's internal mobility operator of Deutsche Telekom. I'm very lucky to have great team supporting me on this, and some of them are here, so they can support me on discussion today. But what we are doing, we are managing mobility of 85,000 employees of Deutsche Telekom. We are maintained second biggest fleet in Germany with 20,000 vehicles. We are first and one DAX company in Germany who electrify, meaning BEV, fleet completely until 2030. We have also, of course, salary conversion bicycle. We have own car-sharing fleet with 240 vehicles, shuttle on demand, plenty of different apps to enable shared mobility, and we also develop mobility as a service platform. So I think we are somebody who's pioneering corporate mobility. And I remember the time then when we spoke to OEMs via corporate mobility, they told us, oh yeah, you don't have anything to tell on the market. Now we're leading these changes.
Last but not least, we move to the island. Ben, we had a panel last year. It was called From Future of Car Ownership. So it was the first 3 ranks, so hopefully we do the same job today.
Thank you for inviting me back, Hans-Peter. It's great to be here. Ben Lawson, I'm our Vice President of Strategic Initiatives for Enterprise across the globe. Enterprise Mobility, you may know us from our primary brands being Enterprise Rent-A-Car, National and Alamo. And why are we interested in this topic? Well, we operate a fleet of almost 2.4 million vehicles in 100 countries across the globe from 10,000 locations. So this is obviously a huge topic for us, and as we look to the future of corporate mobility and the transitions that we're going to go through, it's incredibly important.
Perfect. So the idea is we brought some brain food, Ben, that you just 2-3 minutes present your 3 statements, and then we'll move on.
Thank you. So the first is that corporate mobility is no longer just a HR or a travel function. It's really a strategic enabler shaping competitiveness, sustainability and talent attraction. And I think if I focus on that last one for just a moment, because it's one that not everybody thinks about, but how corporate mobility can enable talent attraction is a major, major topic for a lot of people at the moment. People want to come and work for companies that provide safe, sustainable solutions. And the way that people actually arrive at their work destination then impacts the many different ways in which they travel throughout the day. If I arrive in a private car, I'm less likely to use public transport during the day for my corporate needs. I have my car there, and many different factors like that. So it's really a very important topic. The second one being resilient mobility solutions are essential to withstand geopolitical shifts, regulatory changes, and global uncertainty. It's very topical at the moment when we talk about geopolitical shifts. And many of our customers are traveling and operating in many, many different countries. But we also have regulatory shifts within each country. Many countries, there are different regulations city by city as to what you can and can't do from a mobility standpoint. So one of the things we try to do on behalf of our corporate partners is to engage with those cities and ensure that solutions are commuter and business travel friendly. And the last point is distributed teams demand smarter mobility, integrating remote work policies, flexible office and transport solutions, and virtual collaboration to reduce unnecessary travel. We've all seen such radical changes since COVID. We all keep thinking we're talking about the new norm, and the new norm then keeps changing. But what I think is hugely important when we walk around IAA is the advancements that are being made in software-defined vehicles and the experiences that people are having as part of mobility. And as those change and enable greater and greater experiences, I think it's vital that people like the 3 of us on stage here are linked in with how those are providing commuter travel experiences.
Thank you, Ben. We come back to this global issue, because here's a guy who's working globally. Olga, your statement.
So first of all, I think we have to recognize that corporate mobility impacted the biggest part of our mobility base. So it's about 40%. We're commuting to the office. It's also included business travel. Or we're going to the customer. And in the total, it's 40% of our mobility base of 100. This is why I do believe that corporates have not only big responsibility to impact mobility changes, but it's also one of the biggest changes. So if you think about Dienstwagen, I think it's one of the biggest drivers in Germany. Once I give somebody Dienstwagen, user choose a vehicle,
Company
the person
car.
will probably drive also in private time. So it also applies, of course, public transport or bicycle and so on. So I see corporates is a driver for changes in mobility, and it's very important not to miss to use this chance. Another topic is, I don't see my, okay, now I see. Yeah, now I see my thesis. Another topic, we used to speak about corporate mobility at the cost topic. So fleet, you know, it's cost, we need to invest money. But now it changed. Speaking about talents, but there are plenty of different facets and parts of corporate mobility. It's also brand topic. So in telecom, we brand our electric vehicles because we're proud that we are first fleet to being electrified, the corporate fleet. It's also topic of the employee satisfaction. It's also topic of employee health. So there are different sides of corporate mobility, and it can be also a source of innovation. This is what we do in mobility solutions. So we develop different apps like telecom car app. We have also shuttle on demand. So we use it in telecom as the source of innovation to spread it also for the core business. And this is why I think it's kind of catalyst for the changes in the culture of society. I would mention again famous Dienstwagen, and I think it's like cultural war, you know, going for the electrification, going for the shared mobility and spreading these changes in society.
We come back to this Dienstwagen company car privilege.
It's just such an easy example, right?
Yeah. But first I hand over to Anna-Teresa.
So I'm looking from a completely different perspective at this, because I'm not a corporate. I'm the ugly guy just offering public sector. You know, the stuff with trains, which are always full or not punctual, and buses. And since I'm doing that for 25 years right now, and it was only in the side from our branch, from our sector, just to go into B2C market and just to see how I can sell my tariffs. So, and this changed about 2 years ago, where we started to get into touch with corporates, not but selling only our tariffs, but to get into discussion how to combine their mobility issues with what we offer, because we offer a lot. It's not maybe the very nice, beautiful car, but at the end, we have a very stable system out there. So, and what we have started, and that is what about all my theses are, that we need to integrate this part, not only this case of Dienstwagen, but I say the point of corporate mobility, your own car, your Dienstwagen, whatever, and just to give corporates the possibility to offer more than cars, and to give their employees a very easy, digital, seamless integration into our public sector, to gain more, not only talents, but only to get free of this very narrow-minded side that you have that's all about cars. And that's what we have done in the northern part of Germany. We will talk about it later.
Yeah, definitely. So that was the first round. Already get ready for any questions. I would start again with Ben. Now you heard what example from Germany. Which country is for enterprise, because you work in many countries, is in your terms most advanced? Where do you take your innovative stuff to test, or just to give us an idea on the landscape?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a great question. And one of the things that we do a lot with policymakers in every country that we operate is try and help them understand the great things that are happening in other territories that they don't necessarily see each day. So I don't think I'd point to a singular country and say that that is the place that has everything that we all need, because it simply doesn't really exist. There are certain places within each country that operates it the best. But I think what I would say is certain countries that do a really good job at trying to integrate, if we talk about the commuting functions, integrate the way that people can operate with public transport and remove the barriers to public transport. We actually did a program, and this was with a UK academic institution, and we were looking at a huge campus site in London, which was very, very well served by public transport. And they were trying to understand how could they get more people to arrive by public transit rather than by private car. They wanted to use the parking space for more academic institution. And so the study that we did showed that a lot of people were using the private car to get to work because of the corner issues, if you like. So what happened if there was going to be bad weather when they were on the way home and they didn't want to cycle? What happened if they needed to bring luggage home with them? Or what happened if they then needed to do business travel during the day? So we put in lots of different solutions with partners that enabled people to have a vehicle if they needed it on demand in those use cases. So then the use of public transport to arrive to and from work grew. A little bit like I think when you talked before about you have those car share solutions at work for those types of use cases, providing solutions that give people the ability to cover those 10% or even 5% challenges means they can use public transport for the vast majority of their other travel.
So UK is one of your innovation fields.
Yeah, and we have different innovations in each country, and a lot of that is driven by the regulatory environment. So another example would be we provide ride pooling in North America. We have over 12,000 vehicles providing that ride pooling solutions. And that's actually in many of those locations partly funded by the Public Transit Authority because it's moving people in areas that is uneconomical for public transit and moving them into the private sector that can provide sustainable solutions. And part of us reducing then that cost is often those vehicles, when they then arrive at the workplace destination, are then used for business travel during the day, help subsidising other people's use of the vehicles during that commute. So it does really differ country by country, but we do try our best to try and help policymakers in each country understand the impact of those types of issues.
Talking about capacity, how we use our car fleet, I would ask you to tell us about your project with corporate car sharing, which in Germany at least was very innovative, let's say, and very new ground.
Exactly. We have started a very new way of thinking together with Airbus. Airbus is a very big company in northern part with about 15,000 employees, which had a very big problem because their factory is built on a very small, tiny part at the Hamburg port. So, and they don't have the space to expand, but they have full of orders for new planes because they're building planes. So what they need is space. And this space is blocked by parking slots for their employees. So, and that was such a big problem and such a draw for them that they contacted us and we started to discuss how we can help. What we cannot do up there, because there is water up there, there's a very big river called Elbe, we cannot build any new train station there, yeah? And we cannot fleet that with buses, so that's not possible. So what we have started, and that was the first time in Germany that we opened our sources and opened our network to private cars. And that was not a such easy way as it sounds like that, because 2 years ago, and even though now, so for public sector saying that we integrate private cars from an Airbus, meaning not only their Dienstwagen, so the cars you have by Airbus themselves, but also of their employees, and we offered a car sharing, a carpooling, yes, by a digital way of using apps. You know, I don't need to explain like carpooling is managing, but the clue was not only to integrate carpooling, but to say that if you have a public transport tariff, so you mean you have an abonnement, yes, although a flat rate, or you have bought a new normal ticket, like you can buy it here in Munich, for example, everywhere, you can see whether you use it for public transport or you use it for the carpooling sector. So it's the same pricing mechanism. So, and that was very, very easy for these employees. So what we have started with a lot of publicity and with a lot of marketing, and we have started very low, and from that time on, 1/3 of the employees using the systems, and we are
1/3.
1/3, yes. And from this perspective, we are reducing, I guess, at that time, about 1,500 cars and car drives to the work. So, and that is really a lot when you see in which time we have managed that.
Yeah. It's a big step in Germany because we have these silos.
Yeah.
We're tearing them down. We have Deutsche Bahn Zukunft Nahverkehr here. So for the first time, we're not just talking about cars here, which is great. So you're heading in the same direction. Did you get, I know that like in another country, Netherlands, it's subsidized by tax benefits. Mm-hmm. Is there anything like this happening?
Oh, subsidiaries are a very bad word.
Okay.
Yeah, because we still have the problems when, and still a government problem,
Yeah.
then if you take money from the public sector and you put it into private carpooling, so it's, so you're with one leg in a prison, like to say. But we are getting on a very good ground, so I see it will work, but we need more people doing that, and so I'm very proud that also other cities in Germany started to do that. So we are, I guess, 8 other cities, big cities in Germany, have started to implement the system as well, because it works in Hamburg, so why shouldn't it work in Frankfurt, Munich, yeah, and everywhere else? And so the more people are doing it, the easier it will be to put it on a stable ground.
Yeah. My statement is we subsidize heavily the ownership of cars with our company privilege and not the usage, or maybe the smart usage.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first step in the right direction, but you wanted to add something, Ben?
So that was the first time I heard about that example, which I really must applaud. I think it's an amazing, fantastic example. And that would be something that I would take to many other countries and say, let's look at the reason why that hasn't happened elsewhere. So I could say we were looking at a very similar initiative in the UK, and the reason it couldn't operate there was not because of lack of subsidies, but actually because it was going to be heavily taxed as an employee benefit by the government that would prevent such great measures. And when we met the government to speak about that, they admitted that they didn't want it to be taxable, but that they had no ability to go in and change that, and we would have to wait another 4 years for that policy to change. But it's fantastic to hear those types of things and be able to share them elsewhere.
Thanks. Before we start, I would ask the team behind to show the first slide with all of us, not just this slide, would be great. Olga, talking about employees, you have a big team, you have a big fleet, and you're known for testing a lot of different modes. And what are your learnings from the last 3 years, testing the modes with your team, with your customers, and beyond? What do they really expect? What do they want?
So the first, probably, so coming from the problem, right? So the problem is, so what customers, employee wants is a connected, easy way to come from A to B, whatever it means. And in Germany, in most of cases, it's the car. To come from A to B, easy, smoothly. So our employees and most of the customers, they don't mind to switch modes if it's easy. So we need to find joint way to bring people from A to B, from employees, on time, easy from A to B. And this is what we also have been trying. And Anna and myself, we know each other for a couple of years, and I know experience of Hamburg because you guys very proactive. You come to cooperate and say how we can cooperate together. We don't have this experience Germany-wide. And telecom has employees Germany-wide, and this is very important. We're not only in Hamburg, we're not only in Munich, we're Germany-wide. And what we're missing to provide easy way to move employees from A to B, this is connected ecosystem mobility Germany-wide between all players, public transport, car sharing. So there is no way for us to give employees Germany-wide offer to come from A to B easily. Never. For different reasons. So we have plenty of different modes, right? So we have public transport, German ticket, we have car sharing, shuttle on demand, bicycle, even our technician guys, they're using scooter. But what we know from our figures, 60% of employees commute with a car.
Cool.
And what we can impact on fleet, we electrify and provide different modes, but we are not able to change it alone. We need an ecosystem with Kommunen, whatever is English word for this.
Municipalities.
Yes. We need some ecosystem with public transport. We are not able as a cooperative to do it by ourselves because we want to motivate our employees. It's not only to forbid. So some people say it's easy, you need to close parking spots. It's like, okay, if you give me public transport everywhere, even at the suburbs of Bonn, I maybe close my parking spots. So there are different players playing this, but one is clear, we have to reduce CO2. It's not only pleasure, it's a question of our shares. Scope 1 is impacted on the market. So we're pushing for this very much, and we need this joint play of ecosystem to help us to change mobility modes of employees. And this is why I'm very happy to hear how you do it in Hamburg, and I'd love to have it everywhere in Germany. This is only way how we can impact modes, so smoothie way from A to B, and regulation and framework. If we speak longly about openness, I'm happy for everything, it doesn't mean we will have more charging stations Germany-wide. It doesn't mean we will bring more money in public transport. I do believe strongly we have to have in Germany, ideally in Europe, vision where we're going, what is our plan, and then push money, regulation, and taxation in this direction. Otherwise, we just split money and we are not be able to impact properly mobility modes. This is how I see the problematic.
So from my point of view, we only have Telecom and Deutsche Bahn who could act nationally, and we have the billing relationship, which could be via Clue. But that's maybe for the end of the discussion. Ben, you work globally. So what are the biggest obstacles between countries and maybe some trends globally where you see the whole segment moving, maybe even beyond Europe?
Yeah, so I think if we think about possibly the biggest global trend is the need for everybody to reduce emissions. And that is happening differently in each country. It's often being policy-led, but there is an increasing desire from employees and from businesses to not only to be able to meet those regulatory requirements, but actually to provide the benefits that come with them. So I think that is one of the largest things. But then we see the policies that impact on that differ country by country. So whether it be the reporting that we see that is different perhaps in the UK versus North America versus continental Europe, but then also in continental Europe it's interpreted differently country by country. So you end up with a huge cost base which is driven on companies to try and comply with some of these regulatory frameworks that almost counteract some of the things that they are trying to do to reduce emissions in the first place. I gave an example earlier about some of the taxation impacts that people are facing. On a positive note, if you see why there is such huge uptake in company fleets for electric vehicles, it tends to be because policies have reduced taxation on those environments. But I think it really fits in with what we were just talking about there is a real need, I think, to bring together larger fleets, corporates, public transit authorities to meet with policymakers to try and say, okay, what are the things that need to happen jointly, the joint solutions we can put in place that don't require subsidies, that don't require more money, but that can help accelerate some of these transitions. And we do see that beginning to happen in some countries, but often then these geopolitical issues that we all face come in and sweep some of those aside. So we need a strong vision that we can all get behind to be able to make that withstand some of those pressures.
Perfect. To round this up, I would like to look in the future, and I would ask Anja, we have 3 topics here this week. China speed remains. The second one is corporations, partnerships between different sectors, and the third one definitely is autonomous mobility. We had a panel yesterday with Moja. Hamburg is, with your help, very advanced. How will autonomous mobility transport influence your mission, your job?
It will help. And will help a lot because whenever it shows up and whenever it will be in a functional way that it works, yes? So, but it will do for sure one point. It will bring the public sector and the individual sector together because it will be seamless, you see? So I'm always trying to cut off the silos because the silos are stopping innovation and they just bring it to worse results. So, and from that point on where autonomous driving will be on the market, so it's nothing else than sharing mobility. So, and automatically it will be a part of public sector, and it will be very easy for us to integrate that and to manage that, because the public sector is the only sector nationwide, worldwide, who is able to manage these systems in such a huge way. So for me, it will be an enlargement of my work.
I would have loved this statement yesterday.
I know.
Olga, you have 20,000 car fleet. How will this change your job, or what do you expect, or how do you measure the impact?
I think it will totally change the way how we work, and it's not only for fleet. It's even for people who commute, who go into the customer. We used to speak about the fleet like corporate car. It's not. The biggest part of our fleet is operation. It's our technicians going to your place to install internet. So I think the way how we use the time going from A to B, we will use is totally different. Doing meetings, ordering maybe lunch, putting in the computer information about customers, doing some learning. So we get extra time doing different things. It's also huge capacity for new business model for telecom as such, and we are already piloting. So we have in preparation some pilots with OM for autonomous driving, and they choose not commuting, but technician guys, because it's the most difficult business case, giving new ideas how to move from A to B. So I think it's a huge change for public transport, for fleets, and what is interesting, we as a fleet have huge knowledge about managing fleets of autonomous driving. So Lyft even built own fleet company, because the biggest cost of autonomous driving is cleaning, maintaining, because there is no driver anymore. So I think this is why I say it's not only efficiency, it's also great new business opportunity.
So HVV can do the job, telecom. What about...
We as a fleet, sure.
Last, what about, Ben, how big is your fleet?
2.4 million.
And it's more than all the competitors combined, I learned.
Yes, that is true, yes.
Okay.
So I think, first of all, I mean, this is such a tremendous opportunity. And it provides huge things that we can do in the future. Autonomy, though, is also, in the shorter term, we have level 2+, we have level 3 before we get to level 4 and the events that full autonomy might bring. But I think probably the one thing that we've talked a lot about all the way through IAA, and we continue to speak a lot about, is that the majority of people that are building a lot of these functionalities at the moment are building them for the private purchaser of the asset. And the vast majority of the customers that we're operating with are looking at fleets. And more than half of the vehicles sold in Europe go to fleets in some way, shape or form. So this autonomous product needs to take into account the needs of the corporate fleet, not just the private end user.
So corporate fleets are going to be the drivers of the change, as with EV. I think that's a good last summary. Thank you very much, Anna-Teresa. Thank you very much, Olga and Ben. Thank you for listening. Great.
Thank you.
And thank you, Hans-Peter, for being a wonderful host of this final session of the day.